How's it going, Star Seekers? Gotcake here, and in this review we're going to be taking a look at Dininho Adventures, or at least that's how I think it's pronounced. It's a Brazilian developed retro platformer where you get to play as Bob and Bob's derpy half cousin Dininho, who finds himself on an adventure across a multitude of worlds in search of Mama Dinosaur's missing eggs. So hitting the main menu we get some colourful visuals and see our main man looking all shocked up top. Checking out the options we get some basic settings for language and audio, and an overview of the game's controls which are also pretty simple. Heading back to begin a new game, we pick a save slot and then get stuck right in. Now this first screen acts as the game's intro, and we can move using the left thumbstick or the D-pad. Up ahead we meet Mama Dinosaur, a pink triceratops who's had her horns poached, and she tells us that someone's gone and nicked all of her eggs. And let me tell you now, she's been a very busy lady, as there's a hell of a lot of these eggs to recover. And so we set off on a heroic journey of honour and self-discovery. Our first encounter is with a mallard duck of all things, and he takes us through a brief tutorial level. Here we're taught that we can jump using the B button and jump a little higher by holding B. We can also hold the Y button to sprint, which much like in classic Mario takes us a while to get up to full speed, and this allows us to jump higher and further. We have a spin attack which we can use to kill some types of enemies, and we're also able to jump on a few enemies' heads which allows us to reach greater heights. Now the controls in the game are generally very tight, though I did have a few issues with the ladders in the ice world of the game, where you have to jump from these falling icicle ladders, and the downward motion affects your trajectory as you try and jump off them. I had an absolute nightmare completing this one section due to the tiny block I had to land on, and the strategically placed ice block above it, so thank you very much devs, that's 30 minutes of my life I'm never getting back. So after completing the tutorial we get to what I'll refer as to as the map screen, and it's here that we get to select which level we want to play. Our next level is indicated by a red flag, and previously completed levels have green flags, so we work our way through each level in the game, collecting eggs as we go. We begin each level with 3 health points seen in the top left, and touching an enemy or environmental hazard reduces your health by 1. Losing all your health starts you at the beginning of a level, or at the level's checkpoint if you've reached it, which is usually located around the middle of every level. And trust me, these are a godsend in some of the later levels. The meter below our health builds as we collect eggs, turning yellow once we've collected them all, and once we reach the end of the level, we deposit these safely in a nest. Now I don't know if there's any reward or achievement for collecting all eggs in every level, but occasionally at random it seems, we do get an additional health point after collecting an egg. Now each level also contains a secret key, often hidden behind fake walls, which again I didn't work out the purpose of, though I think they may be required to unlock some secret levels that I didn't play in the main game, perhaps the ones seen in the game's trailer. Now after completing a level and returning to the map screen, above it will be displayed your completion time, egg meter completion, and a lit icon for the key if you manage to find it. So after getting to the end of the world's 5th level, you then head straight into a boss battle. Each boss battle features unique mechanics, usually containing elements from the levels in the world you've just completed. I thought that these battles were well balanced, offering a decent challenge, and they very much felt like classic boss battles from the early years of platforming games. Now the game contains 4 different worlds, each with their own theme and unique mechanics, and each world contains 5 levels equating to 20 levels in total for the entire game, plus of course any secret levels that may or may not exist. We begin the game in the Red Forest world, which eases us into things with simple enemies and platforming, but don't let the game's cutesy exterior fool you, as things ramp up in difficulty pretty quickly as we work our way through each world, and the latter levels in the game are actually pretty challenging. Now if you've played a Super Mario game you'll likely find some familiar gameplay mechanics such as ladders to climb, water sections and moving platforms. But there are also a ton of gameplay mechanics in Dininho, influenced by several other games. As you play through the game you'll find that every single level introduces a new mechanic, and I found this kept things fresh and interesting as you're always encountering new challenges to master. Now unfortunately there's also a downside to this, as other than basic platforming, you never really become familiar with any one mechanic, and this can lead to a lot of frustration at certain points in the game. Take for example this water section. Prior to this you only actually encounter water in one other level, and this had been some very simple swimming, but here is much more precise and we have to keep holding down on the D-pad to steady ourselves, as well as pressing directional buttons to steer our dino, all the while maintaining our oxygen by getting these air bubbles. Another example is the jumping on enemy heads mechanic, where previously we'd perform this action to kill a few enemies and cross some smaller gaps, but then out of nowhere we have a whole section of a level which focuses on this one mechanic. And this one section literally took me an hour to get through it, as you also have to be sprinting to gain enough height to make the bounce from enemy to enemy. Oh, and just in case you were wondering, the timer in the left showing how long you've been playing a level stops when it hits the 60-minute mark. So while variation of mechanics in the game is great, it would have been nice to see some consistency with the other core gameplay elements other than just the jumping. And it would have also been great if some of the more interesting mechanics were found in more than just a single section of a single level. I think some interesting things could have been done with these bubbles which you float through this one section with, or this ice attack ability which we gain in one level, which can be used to turn enemies and objects into ice blocks. The only other minor negative point I have about the game is that it wasn't always clear which enemies you could kill with your tail swipe or by jumping on the heads, and there was a bit of trial and error involved in working this out. So in all, I found Dininho Adventures to be a very enjoyable but challenging game. There was some great variation to its level design, the game's controls were solid, and the vast majority of its different platforming mechanics were well executed. I thought that the pixel graphics were charming and well done, and the game's music was also pretty good, with some simple but nice melodies found throughout its various worlds. So now we come to rating the game. Now I rate games between 1 and 5 stars, with a shovelware stamp of approval reserved for the worst games on the eShop. This rating is based on my own personal opinion on what a game has to offer in terms of gameplay and value for money to potential buyers. And for a rating I'd give Dininho Adventures 3 out of 5 stars. It's an all-round well-executed platform title, with some great gameplay mechanics which very much felt like the modern equivalent of a classic platformer, and I'd highly recommend it to any fan of the genre, providing you're up for a challenge. Hopefully the devs can strike more of a balance between the core platforming mechanics and the quantity of unique mechanics if we see a Dininho 2 sometime in the future. So you can get the game from the UK Switch eShop for £1.79, or from the US eShop, currently discounted by 50% for 99 cents. Alternatively, the game's also available on Steam. How's it going, Star Seekers? If you enjoyed this review, remember to tickle that like button and let me know your opinions in the comment section below. As always, hit that subscribe button to be notified of future Switch indie game reviews, and jump onto the Star Seekers Discord where I'm always up for a chat. For now though, I just want to say thanks once again for watching, and until next time, game on.